All right, everybody, welcome back to coverage of the NRG series event here in Chicagoland, Illinois. My name is Devin O'Donnell, and I am joined now by my co-host Becky Bell. Welcome, Becky. How are you doing today? I am doing pretty good. We've been watching some awesome coverage here, and Matt was talking about the championship series at the end of the year. And we actually have one of our qualified players here, in Theodore Jung, somebody who I actually got a chance to talk with. He was in Atlanta this past weekend, and was I think Theo played mono green last weekend, but playing a deck that's near and dear to my heart in Rakdos Sacrifice. Now, one thing that I will note about the Rakdos Sacrifice deck is this is kind of the nightmare matchup. This is the one deck that you want to try to avoid, specifically because of the presence of Karn the Great Creator turning off Witch's Oven and all that kind of stuff. And here it is. Turn 3, Karn the Great Creator going to shut off this oven. And yeah, this one's going to be pretty tough for Theo here. So I think the sacrifice deck has a slight edge in kind of the heads up matchup. Like if you put the two Rakdos decks against each other, I think the sacrifice deck has a slight edge because it kind of can play a bit more of a longer game, has more ways to generate card advantage. Things like, I guess both decks have Fable, but Deadly Dispute specifically is a card that is kind of, essentially a 2-for-1. And also just like the little chip shot damage with Witch's Oven. And I also think that the Rakdos Sacrifice deck is a lot better against most of the creature-based strategies, things like the White Weenie decks and spirits, things like that. So I think overall, I like Sacrifice a little bit more against everything that isn't mono green. Just pretty unfortunate pairing here for Theo.
Well, it's kind of difficult too, yeah, because the Rakdos mid-range deck, it isn't like the worst like it isn't terribly situated against mono green, but it certainly isn't the easiest matchup in the world for that deck either. So it's hard when the second most popular deck has a rough matchup against the most popular deck that commonly has twice its numbers in a lot of these tournaments.
Yeah, and we see Theo deploying a Mayhem Devil. That's going to get cleaned up pretty easily by a Sky Sovereign. And you see the reason this matchup is so bad. Karn, normally something like Witch's Oven combined with Cauldron Familiar would be able to kind of, if you pair that with a Mayhem Devil, you maybe can get some triggers to help kill the Karn. But with this Oven just being completely offline, okay,
Ooh.
all right, that's a pretty good one here for Theo. Kolaghan's Command going to take out the Karn and the Sky Sovereign, following it up with the Cauldron Familiar. Now we can start activating the Oven.
Now we're cooking with gas here, or cats, as it maybe.
We won't talk about that.
What? Ah, that was good.
So I believe Bill picked up a Chariot, so could deploy the Chariot there, but Cauldron Familiar, decent at kind of blanking the Chariot for a couple of turns, can block Sacrifice, so, maybe can prevent some damage that way. It's hard to get a good look at Bill's hand. I think is an Oath of Nissa that's about to be deployed. Yep, so just digging for some more gas, maybe another Karn. And then as far as Theo's leftovers, I want to say it's Deadly Dispute and a couple lands here. So finds a Lovestruck Beast, which is actually pretty good because that's 4 mana, can deploy the Heart's Desire and the Lovestruck Beast. But the good thing, at least for Theo, is if he has something like a Claim the Firstborn, you can say steal the Lovestruck Beast, maybe get an attack with it, and then also be able to sacrifice it. But we're gonna go for the Chariot here.
Yeah, this seems like a nice deploy. I mean, I would consider the Chariot deck to be, or Chariot in general, to be one of the amazing cards. Was amazing in Standard, is now amazing in Pioneer. And I feel like that's kind of like what Pioneer was meant to be. You're playing all the cards that you loved dearly in Standard, and I feel similarly about Witch's Oven and Cauldron Familiar in that respect as well.
There's quite a few Witches Oven Cauldron Familiar haters out there, so but I'm with you. I love me some Cauldron Familiar Witches Oven.
And it's also certainly much nicer to play in paper than online.
So we're gonna go for an Unlucky Witness. So Theo's gonna immediately sacrifice that to the oven, trying to find some gas here. Tells me that his hands probably that stays exiled. Probably doesn't have a lot of gas left over. Finds a Fable, which is not too bad.
Yeah, that'll help
Can
out a little
deploy
bit.
that. Yep. And then if Theo's leftovers are indeed all lands, can maybe loot away the Fable. Loot away the lands with the chapter 2 of the Fable.
And Theo nicely getting to play his own token there for the Goblin Shaman.
Oh, right. That's the token they got from winning the team event, right? Nice token.
Little
Figured out.
NRG tokens. Shout out to Inkland Customs as well. Thanks for making those for us. They're absolutely gorgeous. Ooh.
The Cavalier here. And hit a Nykthos. That's gonna be a tough one. Now I don't believe there was a Storm the Festival, so depending on what Bill's leftovers are, may not have a ton to do with the Nykthos mana, but I mean there's a grip full of cards. You gotta expect there's something in there.
Oh yeah. And so with the mid-range deck, I feel like Cavalier is like one of those things that ends up being the reason that Kalitas is commonly played in the deck. Main deck are a lot of these sacrifice decks playing something like that to really be able to have a maybe not a clean answer, but a nicer answer to something like the absolute terror that Cavalier of Thorns brings to the table.
Not typically. Let me pull up Theo's deck list here. Theo's deck list is actually pretty clean. It's all 4-ofs. There's zero copies of Kalitas or the new one, Misery Shadow, anything like that. But the nice thing for Theo, it doesn't have a game 1, but post board has something like Karizev's Expertise, which is a massive card in this matchup. Yeah, to steal the Cavalier, and then you could sack it to the Witch's Oven, or maybe sack it to a Deadly Dispute. That's going to come up in the post board games. Not game 1 situation, but yeah, that'll definitely come up in when we get to the sideboard games.
Yeah, well, with what you've already been telling me, it sounds like a lot of what the Rakdos deck is going to be playing for is going to be kind of leaning sideboard gamed.
Right, and Theo discarded a copy of, I think that's Claim the Firstborn. Yeah, it is. So no interest in that.
Yeah, I mean, our options right now are some cats, so
Yeah, that's the issue, right? Because there was that one turn where Bill could have taken the Lovestruck Beast and deployed it, but chose not to. And honestly, for Bill, probably very heads up because he was aware of something like Claim the Firstborn and realized that if he had took that Lovestruck Beast and cast it, likely would have just ended up getting claimed, which does make a lot of sense for Bill here.
Yeah, I think the flavor behind you stealing a Lovestruck Beast and being able to attack with it because instead of a princess, you have a little cat is actually quite funny.
Yeah, plenty, no shortage of 1/1s on Theo's side. We got cats, we got epicures, or no epicures, sorry. We have cats, we have Unlucky Witness is the other 1/1.
Unlucky Witness is a cool card and also like a relatively recent addition as well that seems very nice and spicy to kind of have a cheap way to hold some card advantage together for these strategies.
Yeah, especially when combined with something like a Deadly Dispute, right? You get to go sack the witness, get 2 looks at a card off of the witness, and then draw 2 off the dispute. It just allows you to, because really what the Rakdos deck is trying to do, it's essentially just Mayhem Devil Tribal. You're really just doing everything you can to put a Mayhem Devil into play. So just having more ways to just kind of churn through your deck, and you just want to keep drawing, eventually find that devil. Because as you can see, imagine if Mayhem Devil were drawn on this board state, there's a plethora of things that we'd be able to sacrifice.
Certainly true. Unfortunately, we don't have that Mayhem Devil here. And Kiora going to be the play, and certainly spooky when that Nykthos is available as well, as we can see that quick little untap and retap there.
Yeah, Kiora, Nykthos, untap Nykthos. I would not be surprised if this was the end of the game. I think we might just have lethal if there's a Karn. Okay, there's a Cav. Which gives Bill 6 looks at a Storm the Festival, 5 from the Cav Mill, and then 1 from the draw. Heads up play from Bill here, activating the Nykthos with the Cav trigger on the stack so that if you hit another Nykthos on the Cav, you get to keep the fresh one. Just a little bit of, key sequencing there.
And now,
okay, well,
yeah,
we had the card.
Nicely, yep, as you mentioned, if we were able to see that Karn, it was going to be more than enough. And that Kiora as well is just a nice little show of, hey, I'm pretty sure you're dead here.
Yeah, and that was just a really, really tough matchup for Theo. We saw the Karn come into play on turn 3, which really stopped a lot of what Theo was doing. Kind of had to deploy the Mayhem Devil just to have a shot at pressuring the Karn. That just got cleaned up by a Sky Sovereign. It was pretty. Theo was kind of just spinning his wheels too much a little bit from there, and wasn't really able to ever find that Mayhem Devil before Bill ultimately killed him.
Yeah, well, we get to take a look at their decks now as well as their sideboards, and you can really kind of dive us into what changes we think we're going to see between these two decks as
All right, so from Theo's side, as we talked about, there's those two Karizev's expertise, along with a Jegantha, 3 Ob Nixilis, the Adversary, 4 Thoughtseize, 2 Go Blank, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, and 1 Kolaghan's Command. So from Theo's side of things, those Karizevs are a slam dunk. I've played a lot of this Rakdos Sacrifice deck. I've tried to bring in Go Blank against them, specifically to hit like Storm the Festivals that are milled over. I'm generally not a big fan of it, but Thoughtseize, on the other hand, I do like quite a bit. Being able to take the Karn the Great Creator before it can hit the battlefield is very important. So, if I'm on Theo's side, I like the Thoughtseizes and the Kari's as expertise. Yeah, yeah. This is what we call in the business no changes. We're just gonna shuffle up the deck and hand it right back to our opponent. Yeah, there's no sideboarding done here. But yeah, just key cards in the matchup. Karn the Great Creator, probably the most important card in the matchup from Bill's side. Just being able to shut off the blood tokens and the witches ovens and just the treasure tokens too. It really stunts Theo's like development. So that's the card that Bill's looking for. And Theo's really looking for ways to stop Karn, like Thoughtseize. There are some situations where you can kind of go under Karn, specifically if you have like Bloodtithe Harvester on turn 2 and then Mayhem Devil on turn 3 to put to put 2 3-power creatures onto the battlefield. That means that even if the Karn minuses, you have 2 things that kill it. So, Theo's looking for kind of an aggressive start or a Thoughtseize and just, really needs to keep Karn off the battlefield as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, this is so rough too, because a lot of the time you're like, oh, my like 3 mana thing should be able to like, say I play Fable the Mirror Breaker, I can attack with this token, but the mono green deck is so good at just like always having a way to cheat out that just a little bit faster and really kind of makes things really difficult for you to start to combat something like that 4 mana spell.
Right, so we get an Oath here for Bill, not a Llanowar elf, notably. Theo, on the other hand, not exactly the start you want. Turn 1 nothing, turn 2 nothing. Not great for Theo.
Ugh. And I mean,
I'm
like,
guessing
Mhm.
I'm guessing likely kept a hand of strength, kept his hand on the strength of Fatal Push,
Mhm.
but as you see here, Bill leading Oath into Haven, not allowing Theo to cast that Fatal Push.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty convinced that like mono green players a lot of the time will not play elves against black decks. They'll like specifically go for prioritizing oath instead because the amount of times I've been stuck with fatal pushes in my hand against mono green is like at this point too high to count on one hand or 2 hands even.
Yeah, it's just, when you have these kinds of draws that allow you to blank the Fatal Push Bone Crusher Giant hands, and even a Kiora here, like Bill's just not presenting a target for Fatal Push. Finally, plays a Lovestruck Beast, which is something, sure, maybe you Fatal Push it, maybe you don't, but like Bill doesn't even care. He got this card out, already got his card out of it with the Kiora, so it's you don't even care if that thing gets Fatal Push at this point. So,
Mhm.
pretty good draw from Bill. And I would not be surprised if Theo just discards 2 fatal pushes to the Fable trigger.
Yeah, we'll see. We
Maybe he
are
does want to keep 1 to kill the Lovestruck Beast.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough decision too. And Kiora just enters with so much loyalty that you're like, okay, I got this 2/2. I've got my like creatures on curve, and then all of a sudden this like 3 mana planeswalker enters with 7 loyalty, and you're just like, all right. I don't have a like 7/7 on turn 3, so what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, my general rule of thumb is I just never attack Kiora. Unless I'm killing it unless I'm like
Yeah.
killing it that turn. I just let him have it. There's just no point. Like, Theo could send 2 at the Kiora after a fatal push hits the Lovestruck Beast, but like what's the point? You're not gonna kill this Kiora anytime soon.
All right. Let's see if we can get creative here. Looks like you were right. We thought about discarding 2 of them,
Oh,
but
okay.
ended up
So
not.
yeah, so here's what happened. Let's kind of so basically Theo had Mayhem Devil, claim the Firstborn his own Mayhem Devil to give it haste, attack the Kiora for 5, generate the treasure before blocks, sack the treasure, ping Kiora for 1, get the Revolt trigger from the Fatal Push, and then Kiora takes 5. So,
Woo!
pretty good turn for Theo. As we talked about not attacking Kiora, Theo just says, yeah, I'm just going to kill it, so who
Well,
cares?
you did say that you don't do it unless you can kill it, and Theo said, I'm pretty sure I can, and does, in fact, manage to do it.
Yeah, not necessarily the way that you want to use Claim the Firstborn, because it was basically just a lava spike in that scenario, just 1 mana, deal 3 to something. But, it gets the job done. And, if Bill doesn't have a land, maybe he can't deploy a Cavalier. Also, killing Kiora means that even if Bill does have land Cav, he's not drawing a card off of it. So, yeah, and especially with the Nykthos, you want to make sure you get that Kiora off the battlefield.
All right, looks like this time around we will be making a princess. Away. Ooh, okay. The Seiju as well. Get ourselves some mana from this Nykthos. Or no, not getting mana from the Nykthos, just using the Nykthos as normal to play for Lovestruck Beast into that Elvish Mystic. We'll be able to get more value out of that Nykthos next turn, it looks like.
Yeah, and see, the unfortunate part for Theo is he really wanted to save the Claim the Firstborn, because there's a line where you could go Claim the Firstborn, haste your Reflection, use the Reflection, copy the Mayhem Devil, and then kind of go nuts from there. But, having to use it last turn to kill the Kiora does not have access to that line now. Picked up a Fatal Push, so that could hit the Lovestruck Beast. We do have a Revolt trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what you do is... Yeah, I guess he's debating if he even wants to kill the 1/1.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could even just get the treasure, sack the treasure, ping the 1/1, use the black, kill the Lovestruck Beast. But I think Theo's just going to leave the 1/1 hanging around. It doesn't really do that much.
Mm-hmm. And impressive that Theo's actually kind of made use of a lot of these fatal pushes. 3 of them have been seen in this game. Granted, we discarded one of them to redraw with our Fable the Mirror Breaker, but even still, being able to consistently get rid of Lovestruck Beast has been actually quite helpful here.
Yeah, Theo did have a lot of those fatal pushes, but was able to kind of convert, the first one we discarded to Fable, and then the next 2 killed 2 Lovestruck Beasts, so was able to convert those pretty effectively, especially that turn where he was able to kill the Kiora.
And it seems like we're chilling on Bill's turn here. And a lot of actually some of the carnage that Theo was able to make last turn has kind of stymied our possibilities with this Nykthos this time around.
Bill just colorless, just using the Nykthos as a Lotus Petal. Didn't have another land. Because he wanted to cast the Storm, which pretty good, just wants to, obviously has to cast the Storm. It's a pretty good one. Oh, man. Well, that's not what you want to Storm into, so.
Absolutely not, but I mean, Bill being nice enough to even show Theo what it was, so.
I love it. Love it from Bill's side. Just like, here's my, here's how bad it was. I respect it. With Bill at 15, I'm wondering if Theo can present a lethal attack here. It's going to be close, because you can copy the Mayhem Devil with Reflection. You can sack the treasure to kill both blockers, because now you have 2 Devil triggers. And then you have 3, 6, 9, 11 damage. You get another treasure off of that. That's 13. I think we are one permanent sacrifice short. Oh, actually, no, because the Fable, the token dies end of turn, gets sacrificed. So that should be lethal. Yep, so sack that, kill those 2. Oh, yeah, we can also fire up the den. Yeah, that's more than enough. More than enough.
And enough that Bill even says, yep, scooping them up. And it looks like we will be going to that game 3 here after a really cool actually start in a couple of turns from Theo's deck as well as kind of an unlucky Storm the Festival from Bill.
Yeah, hitting 4 elves and an Oath of Nissa, not exactly where you want to be. But it from Theo's side of things, that was a very good game to showcase of this is what happens when there's no Karn. Theo just kind of got to do whatever he wanted because of the presence of no Karn. And you see how massive of an impact that card has. Theo would not have been able to sacrifice any of those treasures, wouldn't have been able to sacrifice the blood token. So just Karn being able to shut all of those things off, is what makes the matchup so hard. So step one for Theo, make sure that Bill doesn't draw Karn.
Yeah, and step 2 is make sure that you can kind of punch through a little bit of damage. I mean, we saw just how much even like fatal pushes where they can end up being kind of a bad card are still able to get through if you're able to take care of those Lovestruck Beasts and able to take down something like that Kiora that came down pretty early and was almost something that was going to allow Bill to skyrocket in that game. But just being able to kind of with a little bit of creativity, kind of cobble together a way to quickly say, I'm answering this Planeswalker, very nicely allowed for Theo to take that one home. So that was beautiful to see. And normally I'd be like, let's look at sideboards again and see if we're making any changes. But one, the mono green deck isn't going to sideboard, and two, we've kind of already taken a look and we've seen how some changes have come together for Theo. So do you think that in the end there ends up being a little bit of a play draw disparity for these two decks in particular? Like now that Theo is going to be on the draw, is that going to make a really big frustration over the course of this game for Theo?
I mean, as far as like sideboarding changes, I don't think anything is going to change versus play draw. You still want the Thoughtseize, play or draw to be able to take the Karns. We saw the fatal pushes in Theo's deck when he was in the play. I'm guessing you still want those in the draw to be able to hit the Llanowar elves. So I don't think anything's going to change per se. But you're from Theo's side of things. I think when you're on the draw, you're going to be looking for those fatal push hands more often because of the presence of like the turn 1 elf, turn 2 Cure starts. So as far as mulligans are concerned, I think Theo's going to prioritize Fatal Push a little bit more in his mulligans.
And our players are still shuffling, working on drawing their opening hand. So we'll be going down in soon. And by soon, I mean right now. Excuse me. But it looks like we also will be seeing mulligans for actually both of our players. So both players going down to 6. And which one of these decks do you think ends up being a little more hurt by taking a mulligan and being down a card?
I think Theo's deck, because there's just a lot more like Theo's deck is really built on synergy, right? It's trying to assemble a lot of different interlocking pieces. And when your synergy based deck is on, less cards, it's like it's harder to assemble those specific pieces that you need. And, you end up having these like, trying to think of a good example, like, a bunch of like the 1-drops, but you don't have any ways to sacrifice them, right? Your hand is, say an Unlucky Witness, a Cauldron Familiar, a Mayhem Devil, and some lands. Like that's a pretty anemic hand, right? So you're trying to set up. It's almost like an A plus B kind of thing, and just less cards means less shots at A plus B.
Oh, and this is kind of one of those hands that we were talking about here. Land elf to start. Let's see. Do we have fatal push? No. Kind of the next best thing here, though. Ooh. All right. Walk us through this hand for Bill.
So Bill had on 6, we have Land Elf, and then we have Boat, Oath, Haven, and Nykthos. Theo's gonna take the boat. I'm wondering. That tells me interesting because I was thinking about taking the Haven there. Maybe Theo just prioritizes taking the threats, which maybe that is more risk adverse. But I kind of want to just take the Haven, especially if Theo has something like a fatal push. You can say take the Haven and then push the Elf and just kind of set Bill back to the Stone Age. So that leads me to believe that Theo does not have a fatal push.
All right, but we do have Bloodtithe Harvester to hopefully be able to attack this Karn, but things are going to get really difficult to do that here if Bill is able to continue to surmount a little bit, but with only one card in hand, that might not be the worst place for Theo to end up being in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you're Bill, you just go Karn uptick, eat the blood token. Karn's at 6, even if you just let Karn take 3 from the Harvester and not even care that much about it. And then you get to untap with a Karn activation. You can minus and still keep the Karn in play. Get something like a Sky Sovereign to kill the Harvester. So I think that's where Bill's going to go.
All right, start off here. Yep. Ooh. Oh, Bill thinking. Was almost on board with you for a sec. I was thinking about it, deciding.
I guess he's thinking about if he wants to just get the boat now, because he's likely going to get a boat off the Karn. The only problem with minusing the Karn is if Theo has another Thoughtseize, it's kind of a disaster, because you go minus the Karn, put it to 3. Theo goes attack Karn, you're like, okay, do I want to chump block? If I chump block, well, that's fine. Then you just Thoughtseize the boat, and now, Bill's in a horrible spot. So now you're kind of like protecting the boat in your sideboard from getting Thoughtseize. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Let's see what Theo's got.
Oh, all right. Fable. Not too bad, but unfortunately those treasures will still be unsacrificable as long as that Karn remains in play.
Yeah, and now I would have to imagine we're going to go minus... Oh, okay. We're going to go for a Cav here. Guess that's better than getting a boat. Mill the Storm. So Theo is really looking for Claim the Firstborn. Or not Claim the Firstborn. Kari's expertise. To steal that Cav.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is like one of those things where if we do end up going for the boat this turn, like how do you feel about making a decision on a previous turn? Like I understand like not trying to fall into like sunk cost and like being like, okay, I played towards this last turn and now I'm kind of going against that and like playing into the thing that I played around last turn. How do you feel about doing that now? And do you think it kind of depends on wherever we fall into like body language or like how you read somebody over the course of a game?
So I think in this specific instance, the Karn plus the turn before was actually getting something. You were actually killing the blood token with it. So there's a couple issues with not getting the boat here. One, Bill is aware of the presence of something like Akari's expertise, like that's probably on his radar. So he wants to maybe try to play around that if at all possible. Also, just maybe there's a way for Theo to get towards the Karn that doesn't involve entering the combats. I guess that's pretty hard. Maybe something like a Kolaghan's command, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough. I guess Bill just wants to make sure he gets the value out of Karn, just in case things were to happen to it. And it's with the Cav in play, it's that is a pretty good way to protect the Karn. So I think this makes sense.
And as we're seeing, these two creatures not really able to get through that Cavalier. And ooh. All right, how are we starting this off?
Looks like a push. So I'm guessing that everything is going at Karn, which will get the Karn off the battlefield, but Bill's going to get to eat a creature with the Cav, and then also kill a creature with the boat. So a lot of resources being lost here for Thea, but does have a second Fable, which is not bad.
And even discarded a Fable to the last Fable's second chapter trigger. So it's just lots of Fable in the Mirror Breakers. Kiki Jiki has a lot of stories about him.
Mirror is being broken.
Oh, all right. Boat takes care of that treasure-making friend. If we don't have Karn, we don't want our opponent making treasures. Simple and clean.
The other thing that Theo could do, Kari's expertise doesn't just take creatures, it takes vehicles. So you could take the Sky Sovereign if you wanted to, if that were drawn. Now, I don't know how far that really gets you, because then, Bill just gets the trade for the Cavalier, but it is a line.
I mean, it might be
lining up 3 mana.
More than you're doing with your creatures that you have in play anyway, so...
That is Akari's expertise. All right, we're asking a judge question. I have an inkling as to what Theo's asking a judge.
All right,
so I believe Theo's hand is Kari's expertise in Deadly Dispute, and I think what Theo's asking is, can I steal the Sky Sovereign with? Okay, so it's kind of a weird one where you go steal the Sky Sovereign, crew the Sky Sovereign, but then also sacrifice the Sky Sovereign. Oh no, because Dispute can second artifact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that doesn't even matter. So you can sack the boat regardless, never mind. I was wondering if he's thinking of like, can I steal the boat and then crew the boat before I have to cast the spell off of the Kari says, but you can just sack the boat as an artifact anyways, so
Yeah.
that wouldn't matter, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if Theo's hand is Karizev's plus Dispute, this is pretty good. I assume you just want to kill the boat.
Yeah, otherwise it continues to just kind of wreak havoc on your board. So even if it did end up trading, I don't think that would also be the worst. Like, it sucks to give the Cavalier its dies trigger, but all right, what's it gonna be, Theo?
I think what the other thing he's thinking about is see the thing you can't. It's awkward because you'd only have 4 mana. Because the other line you could do is go like you could go Karizev's expertise, steal the boat, then crew the boat with the harvester, attack, kill the elf, and then sack the boat to the dispute. But you don't have a 5th mana to do that. So I'm also not positive if the Cavalier. I don't remember how this works. If the Cavalier dies on Theo's side, does Theo get the Cavalier trigger? I think he does. I don't remember how that works.
I would guess so.
Maybe that's what he was asking. Because if that's the case,
too, because I feel like if you target Cavalier, we just crew in response.
Yeah. He's gonna get okay, so we're gonna go take the Cav. Okay, so apparently the Cav dying, Bill gets the trigger. I see. Which is kind of dicey now, because Bill probably just puts Storm on top. That's awkward. I wonder if it was better to take the boat then. I really don't want to give Bill a Storm here.
Yeah. I feel like we're deciding what we're getting for Bill here too. We're deciding between Storm or Karn here and trying to figure out which one of these is the better call to get. Well,
Okay, people in chat are saying that might not be how it works. I'm not 100% sure how it works. Maybe we should have a judge just double check and take a quick look.
Well, I imagine they had a judge at the table a moment ago. I'm here. I can see. They're 10 feet away from me. They did have a judge there. They asked.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what was asked, but maybe that's not what was asked. Because I wasn't 100% sure how that would work. If we want to maybe just have a judge just double check before Bill resolves the storm. Oh no, it's gonna be too late now. Yeah, see, I thought that I would assume that's what Theo had asked. If Bill got the Cav trigger.
In fact, I'm fairly certain that's what was asked.
Well, it's a bad storm anyways, so.
Well, we're still being able to crew the Sky Sovereign and kill
That's true.
Fable. So even if we're just getting an army of elves, like the army of elves can jump in the boat.
I'm kind of sad that Bill didn't reveal the storm again though, like he did last game.
He's less sad about it this game.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, hey, I can at least crew my boat with it.
Yeah, exactly. This time around, it doesn't feel as much like I'm dead.
Yeah. So I think Theo's looking at a Sokenzan, a Mayhem Devil, and I think a black card. Maybe a Thoughtseize, maybe a Fatal Push. So I could Fatal Push. This is awkward. So we're going to sack, ping an elf.
Yeah, how many of these elves can we kill now?
We can sack the Harvester to kill another one. And we're going to attack. Okay, only going to kill one elf. Yeah, I guess Theo couldn't kill all 3 elves because if you could kill all 3 elves and Bill just bricks,
You just would,
then
right?
then Bill can sack the Haven. Oh, you know what's interesting? If Bill sacks Haven, funny enough, that triggers Mayhem Devil. So if Theo had, I wonder.
Well, this would too,
if,
yeah.
No, because
No,
Legend Rule is not sacrifice.
it's not, yeah.
But if Theo had sacked the Harvester to kill an elf, and Bill would have had to sack the Haven to okay, we're just storming. I guess that makes sense too. I was going to say Bill would have had to sack the Haven to crew the boat, but then if the Haven gets sacked, you kill an elf. That could have happened, but
show us again.
I think Theo just really has to hope for a brick. Anything that crews this boat is going to be tough.
Well, the body language is certainly weird for this storm, so. Oh, well.
It's an oath, and is it an oath and a land?
There's one creature in there. And an elf.
If it's an elf, if it's an elf, that's not enough to crew the boat, though.
No,
it's only 2 power.
It's not.
Haven, okay. Man, I will say, Bill's storms have been really bad. Like, exceptionally bad. The last 3 storms he's cast, he's got a total of, I think, 5 elves in a Haven.
Well, I mean, to Bill's credit as well, we've had an oath every time to start the game off instead of an elf that's going to get fatal pushed. So you're kind of you're playing that game of, if I'm going to work around some things, I'm potentially going to draw those suboptimal cards later in the game.
Oh boy. We're going to copy Harvester, which gives us, Bill's at 17. I wonder if we're close to lethal. If we copy Harvester, we can sack the new Harvester to kill an elf, get 2 devil triggers, 1 kill the other elf, 1 go upstairs. Put Bill to 16, attack for 9. Put Bill to 7. Yeah, looks like we're just going to play some cleanup duty. Yeah, and then attack for 9. Put Bill to 6. 8. No, 8. I can't math. Oh, yeah, right. We just played the double. We can't attack with that one. Okay. Bill to 11.
And now this is interesting with 2 devils too. What you said earlier about the havens kind of gets extra interesting.
Looks like it was an old growth troll. Yeah, and Bill has to be awkward, or Bill has to be a little careful here, because if he sacks these havens for blockers, there's 2 Mayhem Devil triggers. There's two Mayhem Devils in play, so gotta be careful of that.
Doing some counting of our own. This old growth troll could crew the boat, and a boat trigger would get rid of a devil, but that, with our life total at 10, that gets a little spooky there.
Yeah, there's also the Den of the Bugbear, as you see Bill kind of lining up here.
Yeah.
So let's say troll
You're
cruise
watching
boat.
those creature lands.
If the troll hops in the boat, you attack, kill a Mayhem Devil. You now have no blockers. So Devil would die. That would be Fire Up Den, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, Bill would just be dead. I think Bill's just dead regardless, so.
Yeah, but we're going to try and see if we can catch a little bit of a stumble here. So a nice start here, taking care of one of those devils. Does help a lot.
See if Theo remembers this trigger. Yeah, okay, he does remember the trigger.
So it would have been extra bad if we'd have gone for that earlier.
Yep. So now there's a blocker, but you can also kill the blocker, right? If you go, you could even copy Mayhem Devil.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Sack the Harvester, kill that, ping you for 2, fire up the den, 7, 3, 6, 8. Yeah, that should be enough.
Oh, and to make matters worse here.
Was that a dispute? That'll be it. That'll be enough for Theodore Jung to take the match 2-1, defeating it Bill Comminos on Mono Green Devotion. That was a pretty sweet match.
That was. In fact, and I mean, especially considering that you were talking so much about how this is a rough matchup for this Rakdos sacrifice deck, the fact that we got to watch kind of the skillful navigation from Theodore on how to get through a match like that, and how it did really also come down in both of the sideboard games. As you mentioned, we didn't see a card, or we did, but they barely lived in the third game, or it was picked, or we had a chance to get back a Karn and ended up going for Storm the Festival instead. So a lot of things that kind of just ended up really strange about that game and kind of fell into Theodore's favor. And we are going to be going into game number 3 of our backup match, because the action doesn't stop here at the NRG series. And if you're enjoying what we're bringing you, be sure to hit that follow button and make sure that you are not missing every time we go live, as we go down into our live match that is still remaining in this round number 6 here. Whoa, is that a seasoned Hallowblade?
That is a seasoned Hallowblade for our Abzan Greasefang player. Oh, second season Hallowblade. We came in at the right time.
Whoa! Okay.
I'm guessing you're a fan of that card.
I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. That's a Sky
I will have you know.
There we go.
I will have you know there are exactly 2 copies of Season Hallowblade in Jose's deck. So drew both of them.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm in for it. And you can see on the screen there, and I don't know, piece together why Seasoned Hallowblade is not only one, a card that I quite like, and 2 would be good in a deck like this.
Well, Abzan Greasefang is all about trying to get a Parhelion into the graveyard, and that is a way to discard Parhelion if you happen to draw one. Also, really notably in this particular matchup, with Matt having, so many copies of Supreme Verdict, Hellblade not the best against Supreme Verdict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or excuse me, Verdict not the best against Hellblade. I said that wrong, but
I understood.
It's really good against Verdict. That's what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is actually kind of a sweet card. As somebody who I tried to play Abzan Greasefang for a little bit, and I don't know if I just got like unlucky every time I tried to play it, or like I think I was also playing some suboptimal versions of the deck, and then like every time I felt like I wanted to play the deck again, I saw somebody else playing a cooler version and was like, oh, okay, I should be playing that card. And then that just happened so many times over and over again, and I was like, I'm just always one step behind what people are actually doing that's good in this deck, and I'm just not going to worry about it.
Yeah. We see a copy of The Wandering Emperor. That one is pretty good against the Season Hallowblade. It's going to go ahead and exile the second Hallowblade. Gain Matthew a little bit of life here. There is the Parhelion. So that's part A, step 1. Step 2, we need to find a Greasefang, which I don't believe Jose has. Got a Pathway. Parhelion in hand. That's not where you want that.
Yeah, thankfully though, Seasoned Hallowblade takes care of that. Granted, if our Hallowblade is getting exiled by a Wandering Emperor, that feels less good.
Yeah. You never know. Against Blue Eye Control, the game's going to go long. Yeah, you can just tap 8 lands for that Parhelion. I've been down that road a couple of times before. It's it's not the best. It's not the prettiest, but
yeah, if it tells you anything about how my Abzan Greasefang adventures went, I feel like I cast it for 8 more than I got it back with Greasefang.
Yeah, that's not what you want to do.
Absolutely not. Ooh, okay. So it looks like Wandering Emperor saying, not long for this world, but at the cost, I will get a 2/2 to do some blocking, which, if life totals are correct, that certainly makes a bit of sense here. And Castle Ardenvale also at the ready, and I think Jose privy of that as well.
Yeah, and honestly, this is kind of like the what we call the mediocre beats from the Abzan Greasefang. It's not really trying to set up an actual combo kill, but just Season Hellblade attacking in for apparently so far at least 12 damage. So doing a lot of good work there.
Ooh, Memory and Deluge. This card is so sweet. And by sweet, I mean a really good card.
Yeah, very, very powerful. Especially with the flashback. Notably, Jose did not attack that turn, so respecting a second copy of the Wandering Emperor. Oh my god, did I just see a copy of Archangel Avacyn in Matthew's hand?
Uh,
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so.
I'm shaking in my boots.
I haven't seen that one since 2016 Standard.
That's like one of those cards that I haven't seen people play a lot of in this format, and so like I'd like have it played against me the first time, and I'd be like, I mean, I guess that's legal, yeah. Ooh, all right, let's start this off though.
Greasefang's good.
Greasy Goyle.
Take a look at Matt's hand. I didn't actually see an answer. I think I saw a lot of white cards. Yeah, we're actually just gonna let the Parhelion come into play. I bet Jose did not expect that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
Wait, this just worked? What's going on here?
Oh
God!
I'll do the next part. It continues to work. Ooh, if that's the case, that would be rough.
I'm looking at Matt's deck list. Hold on. There are 0 copies of Settle in 75. Okay. Dodged.
But we did just tap 3 mana.
Like a 1/1. That'll do some chump blocking. We can block a 5/5 and take lethal. Does that match? I think that was game 3.
Yep, that was game 3,
cool.
and that is going to be enough. And yeah, you were right. That was an Archangel Avacyn in hand. Wow, what a cool card! Wow.
Yeah,
again,
looks like
format bring to play the cards that you liked in Standard.
Yeah, it looks like Matthew actually had a Lyra, a Baneslayer, and an Avacyn. So all of the angels. It's basically blue-white angel tribal at that point.
Especially if you're playing Lyra. I mean, you got to buff up all your other angels. That just makes sense. That's just good deck building. I don't know about you, but to me,
true,
just
very
true.
All
right, an intense end, or I mean, it was intense to watch our first game. That second game really just, I mean, we kind of both said it. Like, if you're the Abs and Greasefang player, you're just like, this resolves. I do the thing. Does it work?
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, I bet when Jose cast that Greasefang, looking at Matt's 7 cards, he's like, "There's no way this is gonna work."
Yeah.
And then Matt's just like, "Yeah, I'm dead. You win."
Exactly, and does manage to bring that one home, and we'll continue to go on to 5-1. We're gonna take a short break here before we get you into round number 7. A time was just called, so hopefully this won't be too long, and we will be right back with more action.